Recorded Books presents an unabridged recording of The Loner, 7 Days to Die, by J.A. Johnstone, narrated by Brian Hutchison.
Chapter 1. Somewhere not far off, a wolf howled in the night. The lonely sound brought a hint of a smile to the face of the man who had once been Conrad Browning. He leaned forward to stir the little fire where his coffee pot bubbled, careful not to look directly into the flames as he did so. That could ruin a man's night vision. Not being able to see well if danger threatened could ruin a man's life. It could end it, in fact. The man who was now Kid Morgan settled back on the flat rock he was using as a seat and listened to the wolf sing its solitary song. He felt a bond of kinship with the beast. The wolf was probably a loner too. At least the kid liked to think that was the case. But maybe it wasn't true. Maybe the wolf had a mate. The kid's mouth tightened into a thin line. He shook his head. Couldn't be. The long, ululating wails directed at the night sky had such a mournful sound to them he knew the creature must have experienced pain and loss. Like him. "Stop feeling sorry for yourself," he said aloud, as he reached for the coffee pot, using a piece of leather to protect his hand as he grasped its handle. He wasn't sure if he was talking to himself or the wolf. "It's been a year," he whispered as he poured coffee into his cup. A year. In some ways it seemed much longer than that. In others, only the blink of an eye since he'd been a happily married, successful businessman with a beautiful wife he adored. Now he was a wanderer, a man with no home and a new name, not the one he'd been born with. Tragically, his wife had died at the hands of evil men. Conrad Browning had died in the crucible of that tragedy, and from the ashes had risen Kid Morgan, the gunfighter, the avenger, the man who rode alone. In the month since then, he had settled the score with the people responsible for Rebel's death, and although he had drawn no satisfaction from his actions, the knowledge that justice had been done had eased some of his nightmares. It was bleak comfort, but better than nothing. Once that grim chore was done, the kid had wanted only to be left alone, but trouble kept drawing him in. There were people who needed help, and he hadn't been able to turn his back on them. Once he would have, without a second thought, but after being married to Rebel and forming a friendship with his long-estranged father, Frank Morgan, he no longer possessed the smug, self-righteous callousness that had plagued him while he was growing up. Despite his desire for solitude, when he saw innocent people being threatened or taken advantage of...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?